We're talking about comedian Amy Schumer and some speculation about her health online.
Okay.
And a diagnosis that'll make you think twice about all those comments people make on the internet. You ready to go?
Let's do it.
So Amy Schumer, for those of you who might not know, is known for her really honest, kind of no-holds-barred comedy, right?
Yeah.
She sort of built this persona around being relatable and open about her life.
Exactly. Which is probably why the story resonated with so many people.
Uh-huh.
So it all started with an article from the Express Tribune. This was back in January. And they were talking about Schumer and how she was dealing with all these online comments about how she looked.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
People were saying that her face looked, puffier than usual.
Yeah, and she kind of brushed it off at first.
Yeah.
Saying that women's appearances shouldn't have to be explained,
Right.
Which is fair. But then things got a little interesting. It wasn't just the average internet trolls.
Right. It was the part that caught everyone's attention.
Yeah.
Because you had actual doctors online who were speculating based on just photos that she might have this condition called Cushing Syndrome.
Oh, Cushing Syndrome. I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, it's not a name you hear every day. Basically, it's a hormonal disorder. It happens when your body has high levels of cortisol. It's the stress hormone.
Right.
For a long time.
Oh, okay. So stress hormone, but how does that connect back to all these comments about Amy Schumer's face?
Well, one of the signs of Cushing syndrome is weight gain, especially in the face.
Oh.
Like very specifically in the face.
Got it.
A lot of times it's called moon face because it makes the face look more round.
Oh, I see. Wait a minute. Didn't Schumer mention at some point that she had been getting steroid injections for scarring?
Yeah.
Could that be connected at all?
Yeah, so that's actually where all the speculation was going.
Oh.
Because she was getting these injections for a breast reduction in a C-section.
Okay.
And those injections are generally safe.
Right.
But if they're used for a really long time, they can trigger Cushing syndrome in some cases.
Oh, wow.
So that was the connection people were making.
So you're telling me that these random internet comments, maybe even from doctors who hadn't even seen her in person, might have led her to a possible diagnosis?
Yeah.
That's kind of wild.
It's really wild. I mean, it's like something out of a movie.
Yeah.
But it shows how these different worlds, like celebrity gossip and social media and then actual medical stuff, how they can all kind of bump into each other.
Totally.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how often that happens. You know how many times people just dismiss stuff online, but then later it turns out to be true? It's kind of a wake-up call.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
Yeah, it really makes you think about all those comments online, right? Like all those, did you know you have insert medical condition here type comments?
Right. Like how many of those are actually true? So, okay, Schumer starts looking into Cushing syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
What happens?
So it actually turned out that her Cushing syndrome resolved itself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she said it just kind of worked itself out.
So she didn't need any treatment or anything?
Nope, not in this case. But Cushing syndrome can be really serious.
Okay.
And it doesn't always go away on its own. A lot of people need treatment for it.
What kind of treatment are we talking about? I'm sure our listeners are curious too.
Well, it depends on what's causing the Cushing syndrome.
Okay.
So like with Schumer, if it was from using steroids, sometimes just reducing how much you use or stopping completely can help.
Right.
But in other cases, like if there's a tumor involved, then you might need things like surgery or radiation or medication to manage it.
So there are a lot of different treatment options?
Yeah, definitely not one size fits all.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to see a doctor if you think you might have Cushing syndrome or any other health concern, really.
This whole story really shows how important it is to pay attention to your body, even if it's something random online that makes you think about it.
That's so true. Sometimes we have these little feelings or changes in our bodies, but we just ignore them.
It's easy to just brush it off, yeah. But knowing what to do with that knowledge is important too.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it means asking a doctor for help, even if you're not sure if it's anything serious.
Early detection is key for so many health conditions.
Okay, so we've talked about Cushing syndrome and listening to your body, but I think there's another big part of this story we need to talk about, and that's the online culture part. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's tricky, right? Social media can be great for connecting with people and learning things, but it can also be negative and judgmental. Like in this case, you have people speculating about someone's health online.
It's like a double-edged sword. On the one hand, you see people sharing their health journeys online, which can be helpful for others, but then there's also all this armchair diagnosing and unsolicited advice.
And even if it's well-intentioned advice from people who aren't doctors, it can be misleading. What works for one person might not work for another, and something that seems harmless online could have serious consequences.
So where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
How do we navigate this world where everyone has a platform to share their opinion, even on health stuff?
It's tough. It's about being informed and being careful, seeking support, but also being skeptical. I think it comes down to personal responsibility. We all have to work on creating a more responsible and respectful online world.
I think that's a great point to wrap things up on. This deep dive into Amy Schumer's story has been really interesting.
It has, and it brings up important questions about health, social media, and the power of online conversations.
So as we end today's deep dive, what's one thing you want our listener to think about?
I think the biggest thing to take away from this is to trust your gut. Like, if something feels off with your body, don't just ignore it. Even if it's something you see online that makes you think about it, it's always a good idea to talk to a doctor.
That's so true. We've been talking all about Amy Schumer and how those comments about her reappearance made her look into Cushing Syndrome. But this isn't really about her specific diagnosis, right?
Right. It's more about being proactive and taking care of your health. It's really easy to get caught up in everything that's going on, especially online, and miss those little signs your body's trying to tell you.
And it makes you wonder, how often do we just ignore those signs? Because we don't want to make a big deal out of it, or we think we're overreacting.
Yeah.
It's almost like Amy Schumer's story gives us permission to pay more attention to our bodies and be a little more proactive.
I think so. It reminds us that health information comes from all over the place, but it's up to each of us to do our research, talk to the experts, and make good decisions about our own health.
So to wrap things up, what are your thoughts on all of this? Have you ever had something similar happen to you? Like maybe you saw something online that made you change something about your health in a good way. Or maybe this just makes you think differently about how we talk about things online and how those conversations can affect our lives in ways we don't expect.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about.
We'd love to hear your thoughts.
You can find us on social media.
Just search for The Deep Dive. And until next time, keep diving deep and don't forget to listen to your body, even if the message is coming from somewhere you'd never expect.